Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. How are we doing? How's our Saturday going? I'm just going to wait for all of you to join in for the session to start streaming to make sure the audio and video is good to go. And then we'll get right to it because most of you here today know what we're going to be doing, right? Hi Atik, thank you for the compliment. Always good to hear nice things about yourself. All right, let me know if everything is good to go. And if you're all set to do part 2 and part 4 of the listening test that we started doing yesterday. Yesterday, we took care of conversations. Today, our point is to do the boring part, which is monologues. But before I get started, something very important that I want to address. I seem to have made an error yesterday and I would like to correct myself. First of all, apologies. See, I know sometimes your mind's just so fuddled, you can go wrong with things. So yesterday, while explaining a particular question to you, I said turn of the 20th century means the end of 20th century, but in reality this means the end of 19th century. So in fact your answer early in 20th century will be correct. I don't know what went wrong. I think I was just a little distracted yesterday, so I had explained this incorrectly and I was just going back and looking at the session today and I realized that, oops, I made a mistake. So please, I am extremely sorry, but please make sure that you have this right. Turn of the 20th century means the end of 19th century, all right? Not the end of 20th century. So whatever century is mentioned in this phrase, turn of whatever century, that means it's the beginning of that century and the end of the century before it. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, okay, it's just a lot of the listening test. You know, one thing about it that is going to help you ace the listening test is to simply focus on the test. And you know, during test day, you will have headphones, you will have the test in front of you, there will be no other distractions. I unfortunately have to take care of multiple things, making sure the stream's going fine, reading your comments, listening to the test, writing down the answers, playing the audio, changing the slides. So I'm really sorry if I go wrong somewhere. Please make sure you also point it out. I won't go wrong again, I can guarantee that, because I took the test beforehand for that very purpose. But in case you feel like I've explained something and that just doesn't seem right, I again want you to point out, yes, I am your instructor. Yes, I've spent years teaching this test and working on it, but we're all human beings and we can all make mistakes. And the point of this is to make sure that you have the best possible preparation, and because nothing should happen at the cost of your preparation, I wanted to take the first few minutes of the class making sure all of you have this information straight. Turn of the 20th century will mean end of the 19th century. See, the class was over. We could have easily gone past it. No one was going to go back and check. No one was going to point it out. But surprisingly, like even I usually don't have the time to go back and watch something that I'd been doing. But for some reason, during the night, as I was about to go to sleep, I suddenly remembered that, wait, did I explain this wrong? And then I opened the class, I went back to it and I realized that yes, indeed. So I'll get that fixed in the live session as well. But I want you all, the regular students who are coming to my class, I want you all to know this, all right? Okay, hi, Prashant, Bhavesh. Yeah, it could be. The dawn of the 20th century would mean the beginning of 20th century. Turn of the century means, again, the same thing, beginning of the 20th century. All right? Okay, so now we're going to go ahead with monologues today. And I'm going to play the first audio, so I want you all to be prepared. Now, because I have to do too many things live, I have to make sure that I'm changing the slide on time, I'm reading your comments, I'm playing the audio. I realize that it's too much pressure on me to solve the test live, although it's really not that hard, but just I don't want to risk anything. So right before this class, I solved the listening test. So it's you who's going to be solving it right now, and then I'm going to share my answers with you, what I got from solving the test. All right. So are we all ready? Can I play the recording for you? Mitesh, the IELTS is valid for 2 years, and so it doesn't matter when you take it, 11th or 12th. Benefits of taking it in 11th is that you have another year to improve your score in case you don't do well the first time, because anyway at the end of 12th grade you have too much going on. Chances are, even if you want to go study abroad, you're still going to take the Indian competitive exams, so you're preparing for, I don't know, whatever competitive exam that you wish to take. CUET, of course, maybe JEE, maybe NEET. So depending upon what kind of trajectory you set for yourself, there are going to be multiple tests that you will have to take at the end of 12th. So if you can take care of IELTS in 11th only, that is a smart move. So you're getting ahead of many other people. You're just checking one thing off of your list. And also, by chance, if you don't perform well, if you don't get the required band, then you can always plan to take it again. All right. Are you all ready? So always read the instruction, so what's going to happen in the first set of questions is, you have these three options. A is Louise Backshaw, B is Tony Denby, and C is Naomi Flynn. Keep these names in mind because you need to put A, B, or C next to these conditions, right? So when you listen to the monologue, if this happens, then you will see that counselor. If this happens, then you will see that counselor. That's the kind of information that's going to be given to you. And so accordingly, you have to write A, B, or C next to these questions. That's questions 11 to 14. For your convenience, I'm going to write down what these are. I'm just going to write down the first name, okay? So A is Louise. B is Tony. Okay. And C is Naomi. So you can refer to this over here and figure out if it's A, B, or C. All right? Hi, everybody. Get ready to solve the test. Shikha, Gaurav, Ash, Sunny, Mitesh. All right? And here we go. I'll get out of the way.
Section 2. You will hear a guidance counsellor talking to a group of students. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
This is your time to look at the question, so make sure you're doing that.
Listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Hello, everyone. I'm the counselling administrator here at St Ives College, and I've been asked to come and talk to you about our counselling team and the services that we offer. We have 3 professional counsellors here at St Ives, Louise Bagshaw, Tony Denby and Naomi Flynn. They each hold daily one-on-one sessions with students, but which counsellor you see will depend on a number of factors. If you've never used a counsellor before, then you should make an appointment with Naomi Flynn. Naomi specialises in seeing new students and offers a preliminary session where she will talk to you about what you can expect from counselling, followed by some simple questions about what you would like to discuss. This can be really helpful for students who are feeling a bit worried about the counselling process. Naomi is also the best option for students who can only see a counsellor outside office hours. She is not in on Mondays, but starts early on Wednesday mornings and works late on Thursday evenings, so you can see her before your first class or after your last class on those days. Louise staffs our drop-in centre throughout the day. If you need to see someone without a prior appointment, then she is the one to visit. Please note that if you use this service, then Louise will either see you herself or place you with the next available counsellor. If you want to be sure to see the same counsellor on each visit, then we strongly recommend you make an appointment ahead of time. You can do this at reception during office hours or by using our online booking form. Tony is our newest addition to the counselling team. He is our only male counsellor, and he has an extensive background in stress management and relaxation techniques. We encourage anyone who is trying to deal with anxiety to see him. Tony will introduce you to a full range of techniques to help you cope with this problem, such as body awareness, time management, and positive reinforcement.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20.
Okay, pay attention that write no more than 2 words. So 2 words is your max limit for this.
Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Each semester, the counselling team runs a number of small group workshops. These last for 2 hours and are free to all enrolled students. Our first workshop is called Adjusting. We've found that tertiary education can come as a big shock for some people. After the structured learning environment of school, it is easy to feel lost. In this workshop, we will introduce you to what is necessary for academic success. As you might expect, we're targeting first-year students with this offering. Getting organised follows on from the first workshop. Here, we're going to help you break the habit of putting things off, get the most out of your time, and discover the right balance between academic and recreational activities. With Getting Organised, we're catering to a broader crowd, which includes all undergraduates and postgraduates. Next up is a workshop called Communicating. The way people interact here may be quite different to what you're used to, especially if you've come from abroad. We'll cover an area that many foreign students struggle with: how to talk with teachers and other staff. We'll cover all aspects of multicultural communication. International students tend to get a lot out of this class, so we particularly encourage you to come along. But I must say that sometimes students from a local background find it helpful too, so everyone is welcome. The anxiety workshop is held later on in the year and deals with something you will all be familiar with: the nerves and anxiety that come when exams are approaching. Many students go through their entire academic careers suffering like this, but you don't have to. Come to this workshop and we'll teach you all about relaxation and how to breathe properly, as well as meditation and other strategies to remain calm. We've tailored this workshop to anyone who is going to sit exams. Finally, we have the motivation workshop. The big topic here is how to stay on target and motivated during long-term research projects. This workshop is strictly for research students, as less advanced students already have several workshops catering to their needs. Well, that's it. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions or want more information about our services, do come and see us at the counselling service.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, that brings us to the end of section 2. Let's see your answers. Oh my, Mitesh getting a head start. Okay, so remember how yesterday, I think Mitesh, you weren't there yesterday, we talked extensively about a lot of traps that are set in these audio recordings on purpose. And one of a big one was the synonym trap that we spoke about. And that was used a lot here, especially in the first one, all right, where the exact words weren't used, right? For example, it didn't explicitly say if this was your first time seeing a counselor. It said if you haven't seen a counselor before or something along those lines, right? So you need to be able to make those connections, all right? And let's see if your answers are correct. 1 second. All right, so Mitesh says the answer to number 15. Where's 11 to 14? Why have you started from 15? What about 11 to 14? So Ash, 11C, 12C, 13A and 14B. CCAB is what you are saying. And CCAB is absolutely correct according to my notes. But let's make sure I got this right as well. So I will also now open the official answer key that I've managed to find. And yes, so we've all gotten this right. If you have never seen a counselor before, who was that? That was Naomi. If you're unable to see a counselor during normal office hours, who do you see? Naomi. Because Naomi, they went on to explain that she was available, at odd timings, and then she would come in on Wednesday and stuff like that. So that was also Naomi. If you do not have an appointment, you could see Louise. And then it also said that because you don't have an appointment, maybe you'd get to see Louise, or Louise will schedule you for whoever is available next, right? So if you don't have an appointment, Louise is responsible for everything related to that. And if your concerns are related to anxiety, our anxiety expert was the only male counselor, who was Tony. So CCAB, absolutely correct. So I hope all of you have gotten this right. Mitesh and Aditi, did you get 11 to 14 right? It was relatively easy. So I'm sure you did. What about Saniksha? Mitesh, what was the issue that you weren't able to understand? I explained this. Make sure you know this question type. See, basically what happened was they gave you 3 options. They said A is Louise Bagshaw, B is Tony Denby, C is Naomi Flynn. Now, according to these different things written here, which counselor would you get to see? Right? So, A, B and C were your answers that you had to write next to these different questions. And the questions were all things that these different counselors take care of. For example, the only counselor that you can see after normal office hours, that is perhaps before 9 and after 6, something like that, would be Naomi. That's something they explicitly said in the recording, right? So here what you were supposed to do was take one of these options, put them next to these questions, depending upon who met these particular conditions according to the audio, right? Okay, moving on to the next one. Here you could write 2 words. If you write more than 2 words, you can lose marks. So make sure you're writing only 2 words. The answer for the first one was first. Here, students, you could write it like this, or you could write it like this. Both are acceptable, okay? First, either way, acceptable, okay? All right, so good job, Mitesh. Good job, Aditi. Good job. No, Ash, you missed out on this one. This was specifically for first year students, all right? First year students. Then the next answer was, let's see who got that right. Oops, okay. Mitesh said academic. Ash didn't answer question number 16. Aditi said time. Okay, so all of you struggled with 16. So we will come back to this. Okay, I'll replay the recording for you. Then what about 17? Question number 17. Very good. Here you could write two potential answers. Both of them are acceptable. It could have been international or foreign. Foreign or international, both are correct answers. Okay? Both are correct answers. So Ash, you got it. Mitesh, you got it. Aditi, you got it as well. Next we had, this one was easy. Relaxation techniques, breathing techniques, meditation. Then the number 19, what was the name of the group? What was the name of the group? It was motivation, or the workshop, sorry. Motivation, right? So yes, good job everybody. Most of you got that right. And finally, what did we have? Here also you could have two potential answers. Two potential answers. Let's see if any of you got different answers for this one. Okay, Aditi said research. Mitesh said research as well. And Ash said research. Okay, so all of you said research. But another word was used. So, yes, research or advanced works as well. The word advanced students was also used. So, advanced works as well. Research or advanced. Okay? Alright, so all of you got stuck with 16. So, let's go back a little, which you can't do during the actual test. But let's do that right now and see why you couldn't hear.
The way people interact here may be quite different to what you're used to all enrolled students. Our first workshop is called Adjusting. We've found that in this workshop, getting organized follows on from the first workshop. Here, we're going to help you break the habit of putting things off, get the most out of your time, and discover the right balance between academic and recreational
Okay, so here
activities.
Very, very quintessential, obvious synonym trap was used to trap all of you. Okay, so instead of find, the word discover was used. Instead of study, the word academic was used. And instead of leisure or leisure, what was the word that was used?
With putting things off, get the most out of your time, and discover the right balance between academic and recreational.
Yes, recreational was used. So here, find, discover synonyms, study academic synonyms, leisure, recreational synonyms. They are the same words, right? So what was this? This was a synonym trap. And you all fell for it because none of you were able to find the answer here. Here you could have written find balance between, or you could have written find right balance between study and leisure, because you can write two words. Right balance is also acceptable, or simply balance works as well. Okay, so make sure you're looking out for synonyms. As soon as the recording says the next workshop is getting organized, You need to be laser focused on what is being said because your next answer is right here. And over here, out of these 3 different columns, this column is the most difficult to answer because it has multiple things, okay? So here, as soon as she said getting organized, laser focus, use time effectively, discover the right balance between academic and recreational activities. Sounds the same like finding the balance between studying and leisure activities, right? Synonyms were used. Answer is balance. Answers over here are easy to spot. This was particularly difficult and I knew you would get stuck with this and that is what happened. But now you know how to look out for synonyms in this. So you can't ever predict when a synonym is going to be used. So the 3 things that you need to keep in mind is never stop paying attention. Never ever stop paying attention. Whatever is being said, always consider the possibility that same thing can be said in a different way. The same thing can be said in a different way. The answer will not be different. The answer that you're going to write down is going to be something from the recording. But in the questions, the same thing can be said in a different way. Always have that in mind and keep looking for 1 or 2 words that sound similar to what is written in your questions. This is why you need to spend some time that is given to you in the beginning, really analyzing the questions. You're not given a lot of time, right? You're given less than a minute perhaps, but use that time to really understand what the questions are looking for. All right? See, yes, don't rush to answer. As a matter of fact, a lot of times, Mitesh, what happens when you rush to answer is that the answer gets changed. So there's another trap which is called the backtrack where it's not called that, we call it that in the class. So what will happen is that in the recording, whoever is talking will go back and change what they said. So in case you're trying to answer, you write down the answer, you think this question is done, you move on to the next and you stop paying attention to the recording, chances are the audio will change what they said. They'll say, I want this. No, sorry, I've changed my mind. I want this. Okay, so then your answer also gets impacted by that. So make sure that you're never rushing to answer. But that doesn't mean you don't write down what is said because you cannot predict whether they'll backtrack or not. So always jot down everything that is being said, especially if it's names or figures or important information. Jot it down, but make sure that is the correct answer. Crunch. And Ketan Preet also asked me if abroad is valid here. The only answers that are valid are the ones that were explicitly stated in the recording. Okay, so let's go back and listen if the word abroad was mentioned. The word international and the word foreign was mentioned. That's why both of these are acceptable answers. But was the word abroad mentioned? Let's go back and check.
The anxiety workshop is held later on in the year and deals with work with getting organized. We're catering to a broader crowd, which includes all undergraduates and postgraduates. Next up is a workshop called Communicating. The way people interact here may be quite different to what you're used to, especially if you've come from abroad. We'll cover an area that many foreign students struggle with, how to talk with teachers and other staff. We'll cover all aspects of multicultural communication. International students tend to get a lot out of this class.
All right, so here, especially if you, actually I won't erase this, especially if you can't see black on black, okay, come from abroad, okay. Next, what did they say? Foreign students and international students. Now tell me, is this correct? Singh, is this correct or Is this correct? Tell me, is 1 the correct way of saying this, or is 2 the correct way of saying this? So yes, I agree with you. The word abroad is mentioned, but now comes the second phase where you have to tell me, is 1 correct or is 2 correct? What is correct? Very good. Yes, 2 is the correct way of saying this. How many words? 3 words. What is your limit here? 2 words. Can you write students from abroad? Can you write students from abroad here? No. 2 other things were stated. So come from abroad, students from abroad, you cannot write because it's 3 words. Foreign students, international students, 2 words. On top of that, you don't have to mention the word students again because students is already written here. All students, especially international. So it is implied that you mean international students. All students, especially foreign. It is implied that all foreign students. So you don't even have to write the word student again. But even if you write the word student again, it is still in our word limit, right? So the way to use the word abroad correctly in this context would be to say students from abroad, not abroad students. So no, abroad will not be an acceptable answer over here. The only acceptable answers are international or student or foreign. Don't write 2 answers, Ash. Write 1 answer. All right. If you are really unsure, then you can put a slash and write another answer. But it should not look like you have written more than the necessary number of words. All right. So it's best to stick to 1 answer. Does that clear your doubt, Crunch Crunch and Kirtan Preet? Why we cannot use the word abroad over here? All right, let's move on to the next part of the test then. Which will be part 4 because we already did part 3 yesterday. Okay? All right, here we are. Questions 31 to 35, you have to complete a table. What is the limit? 1 word is the limit. 1 word for each answer. Here's your table and I gave you some extra time to look at it and now I'm going to play the recording.
Section 4. You will hear a talk on the topic of time perspectives. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
"30 seconds-ish, I will move on to the next because you have to look at questions till 40. So,
Listen carefully and answer questions.
Giving you more time than you will get in the recording, but that's fine because you're practicing. These are all multiple choice questions. So don't go into a lot of detail trying to understand each question. Figure out what the question type is. Is it a multiple choice? Is it a match? Is it a fill in the blank? If you're ready with that, then you will be able to find answers in the recording more easily. All right, so 1 word here. Let's start.
31 to 40.
Today, I'm going to be talking about time. Specifically, I'll be looking at how people think about time and how these time perspectives structure our lives. According to social psychologists, there are 6 ways of thinking about time, which are called personal time zones. The first 2 are based in the past Past positive thinkers spend most of their time in a state of nostalgia, fondly remembering moments such as birthdays, marriages, and important achievements in their life. These are the kinds of people who keep family records, books, and photo albums. People living in the past negative time zone are also absorbed by earlier times, but they focus on all the bad things, regrets, failures, poor decisions. They spend a lot of time thinking about how life could have been. Then, we have people who live in the present. Present hedonists are driven by pleasure and immediate sensation. Their life motto is to have a good time and avoid pain. Present fatalists live in the moment too, but they believe this moment is the product of circumstances entirely beyond their control. It's their fate, whether it's poverty, religion, or society itself. Something stops these people from believing they can play a role in changing their outcomes in life. Life simply is, and that's that. Looking at the future time zone, we can see that people classified as future active are the planners and go-getters. They work rather than play and resist temptation. Decisions are made based on potential consequences, not on the experience itself. A second future-orientated perspective, future fatalistic, is driven by the certainty of life after death and some kind of a judgment day when they will be assessed on how virtuously they have lived and what success they have had in their lives. Okay, let's move on. You might ask, how do these time zones affect our lives? Well, let's start at the beginning. Everyone is brought into this world as a present hedonist. No exceptions. Our initial needs and demands, to be warm, secure, fed, and watered, all stem from the present moment. But things change when we enter formal education. We're taught to stop existing in the moment and to begin thinking about future outcomes. But did you know that every 9 seconds, a child in the USA drops out of school? For boys, the rate is much higher than for girls. We could easily say, well, boys just aren't as bright as girls. But the evidence doesn't support this. A recent study states that boys in America, by the age of 21, have spent 10,000 hours playing video games. The research suggests that they'll never fit in the traditional classroom, because these boys require a situation where they have the ability to manage their own learning environment. Now, let's look at the way we do prevention education. All prevention education is aimed at a future time zone. We say, don't smoke or you'll get cancer. Get good grades or you won't get a good job. But with present-orientated kids, that just doesn't work. Although they understand the potentially negative consequences of their actions, they persist with the behavior because they're not living for the future. They're in the moment right now. We can't use logic, and it's no use reminding them of potential fallout from their decisions or previous errors of judgment. We've got to get in their minds just as they're about to make a choice. Time perspectives make a big difference in how we value and use our time. When Americans are asked how busy they are, the vast majority report being busier than ever before. They admit to sacrificing their relationships, personal time, and a good night's sleep for their success. 20 years ago, 60% of Americans had sit-down dinners with their families, and now only 20% do. But when they're asked what they would do with an 8-day week, they say, that'd be great. They would spend that time laboring away to achieve more. They're constantly trying to get ahead, to get toward a future point of happiness. So, it's really important to be aware of how other people think about time. We tend to think, that person's really irresponsible, or that guy's power hungry. But often, what we're looking at is not fundamental differences of personality, but really just different ways of thinking about time. Seeing these conflicts as differences in time perspective, rather than distinctions of character, can facilitate more effective cooperation between people and get the most out of each person's individual strengths.
That is the end of section 4.
That is the end of section 4. And finally, we got the American accent, not just the British with the room and light in the room. So, dark crown. Sorry, I don't know why I said clown accidentally. Dark crown. Can we write answers while listening to the recording of the exam? Absolutely. You're supposed to write answers while listening to the recording. You're going to jot them down, and then at the end of your listening test, you will get 10 minutes to transfer your final answers into the answer sheet. Alright, so yes, you are supposed to. It's not about can you. This is what you're supposed to do. How else will you write answers later? You can't possibly remember everything said in the audio, right? So you're supposed to do it simultaneously. You can write down multiple things, you can scratch it out, it can be in ugly handwriting, and then finally you will get 10 minutes at the end to transfer all of your answers to your answer sheet, alright? This one, the multiple choice especially, had so many traps that I hope you didn't fall for them. Let's figure out these answers. First, okay, we have Mitesh Singh, nostalgia, pleasure, fate, full confusion, then A, B, A, B, alright? Negative, pleasure, faith, future, active, death. Alright, we'll come back to the after 35 later. Here, the first answer was not nostalgia. Nostalgia is here, and nostalgia is here as well. The word nostalgia was used to explain that people who think about the past, when they remember the past fondly, they get nostalgic. So those are the past positive people. It's the past negative people that focus on disappointments. And this is easy to see. Positive, negative. Easy, right? So the answer here was negative, past negative. Okay, next we had live for pleasure, hedonistic. You should know this word as well. People who are hedonistic always seek pleasure out of everything. They tend to get selfish. It becomes a negative character trait for a lot of people. Fatalistic people, on the other hand, think that life is governed by. All right, this was a confusing one, but it was clearly stated. It was neither fate nor faith. This was a back. Actually, you know what? Let's listen to it again and you will be able to tell what the trap here was, and it was a big one. So,
structure our lives. According to social psychologists, the people who keep family records, the bad things, live in the present. Live in the moment too, but they believe this moment is immediate sensation. Their life motto is to have a good time and avoid pain. Present fatalists live in the moment too, but they believe this moment is the product of circumstances entirely beyond their control. It's their fate, whether it's poverty, religion, or society itself. Something stops these people.
whether it's poverty, religion, or society itself. These three things were listed. This was a list. So what I did over here is what you need to do during the exam. During the test, as soon as he said circumstances, I noted it down because that could be a possible answer. As soon as he said fate, I noted it down because that could be a possible answer. But then very clearly, the audio gave us a list. What was the list? Poverty, religion, society. And out of this, two things are mentioned here as well. So out of these three options that could have been the answer, my answer most likely is poverty. Okay? Why? Because it is part of that list and two items from that list are stated over here as well. Does that make sense? And did you see how you need to note down the answers, possible answers as soon as they're said so that you don't forget? Alright? This is a habit that you need to develop. You need to do this during the test. Otherwise, you're going to forget what was said. Our short-term memory is very fickle. Like just how we get an OTP, we're able to memorize the OTP for as long as we need to put it in. We get a message, we're like, okay, the OTP is 345167. 345167, put in the OTP, boom, forgotten, right? That's what happens when you're listening to these audio recordings as well. Which is why, write everything down. That's why you have that sheet. Dark brown, that's why you need to write everything simultaneously. And then finally, when you're transferring your answers, you transfer only the correct answer, which in this case will be poverty, right? Make sense? Okay, next we had future. Again, two types of people. So there was future active and then future fatalistic, right? So active was the answer here, very good. And the future fatalistic people believe in the importance of success in life, right? Most of you got the answer there. Great job. Mitesh, what did you miss out on? It was quite clear.
Success they've had in their lives. Realistic. Decisions are made based on potential consequences, not on the experience itself. A second future-orientated perspective, future fatalistic, is driven by the certainty of life after death and some kind of a judgment day when they will be assessed on how virtuously they have lived and what success they have had in their lives. Okay.
What success they have had in their lives, okay? What success they have had in their lives, that's why the importance of success in life, okay? Next up, we had multiple choice questions. Multiple choice questions had many traps, okay? The first one was word to word strong distractors, okay? So the distractors were things that were said word to word in the recording, okay? But what was done? A lot of backtracking was done. So it was like, you might think that these people are those who which is an option, but actually they are which is the correct answer. Okay, so a lot of backtracking. Third very common trap here was synonym trap. So many places, for example, even in the first question, it never said at birth, right? It did not say at birth. What did the recording say?
Okay, let's move on as a present hedonist. No exceptions. Time zones affect our lives. Well, let's start at the beginning. Everyone is brought into this world as a present hedonist. No exceptions. Our initial needs and demands to be warm, secure, fed, and water.
So what was said? Everyone is brought into this world as present hedonists, right? So it did not explicitly say that we are all present hedonists at birth or when we are born. It didn't even use the word born. It said we're brought into this world as present hedonists. What does that mean? What is the synonym of brought into this world, or which of these means the same thing as brought into this world? At birth. Okay? So what is our correct answer? B is our correct answer here. Very obvious synonym trap. Then here, American boys drop out of school at a higher rate than girls. So much was said here to the point that a lot of you probably thought B is the correct answer, right? Because it was clearly stated. So this was a word-to-word strong distractor. Word-to-word strong distractor. That boys spend a lot of their time, like 10,000 hours or something. It said they spent around 10,000 hours playing video games, right? So you would say, okay, it says that word to word, that is why they're dropping out. So B must be the correct answer. But the correct answer is actually A. Why is A the correct answer? Backtracking. Backtracking. Listen, and it's not even backtracking. It's actually that B was an explanation for A. A is the reason. B here is not wrong. So there's not actual backtracking that's happening. But B was actually the explanation for A. And A is the reason for this. The reason why boys drop out at a higher rate than girls is because they need to be in control. And the reason why they need to be in control is because they spend so many hours playing video games, right? Do you get it? So B was an explanation for A. A is the actual reason. Let's listen carefully.
From the present moment. But things change when we enter formal education. We're taught to stop existing in the moment and to begin thinking about future outcomes. But did you know that every 9 seconds, a child in the USA drops out of school?
See, now here what was done, just observe what was done in the audio. First it said every 9 seconds, student drops out. Then from student it says more boys drop out. From that, it kept narrowing down, right? Listen to the pattern. It started with students, came down to boys, and then when it keeps narrowing down, the last thing that is said will be our answer. So pay attention.
School. For boys, the rate is much higher than for girls. We could easily say, well, boys just aren't as bright as girls. But the evidence doesn't support this. A recent study
boys are not as bright as girls is then stated. But then backtrack. It's said that, we can easily say that boys are not as bright as girls, which means they are not as intelligent as girls, but that is not correct. Why? Because evidence doesn't support it. So C becomes wrong. Okay?
States that boys in America, by the age of 21, have spent 10,000 hours playing video games. The research suggests that they'll never fit in the traditional classroom because these boys require a situation where they have the ability to manage their own learning environment. Now,
manage their own learning environment. What is that a synonym for? Manage their own learning environment. Manage their own learning environment is another way to say they need to be in control. Control, manage the way they learn. Okay? So what was the last thing that was said? The last thing that was said is that boys need to manage their own learning environment. That is why they cannot fit into the traditional school system setting. Okay? What is the reason for that? Because they spend so many hours playing video games where they are in control of the environment. Okay? Of what they are doing. So that B was stated word to word, correct? But that is a reason, and it never said that they did this instead. So that makes it wrong. It never said that they play video games instead of doing schoolwork. It just said that they spend a lot of time playing video games, right? So that also makes B wrong. A is our correct answer. All three distractors were used here. Word to word, strong distractor, backtracking, and synonym trap, right? Okay. Next, we had present-oriented children. What was said about present-oriented children? A lot of things were said about them, but the number one thing that was explained is that they don't care about future outcomes. So even if you tell them smoking will give you cancer, they cannot really think about that future outcome and would do it anyway. So know what could happen if they do something bad, but do it anyway. C was the answer. This one was easier than the previous one. If Americans had an extra day per week, they would spend it. It said, and I've used the American spelling because it was in the American accent and it's about America, laboring. Laboring away. So that means working harder. A was the correct answer here, right? Yes, very good. And then finally, understanding how people think about time can help us do what? Not classify people, not become better, but in turn just cooperate better, work better together, right? And again, synonym was used.
Differences of personality, but really just different ways of thinking about time. Seeing these conflicts as differences in time perspective, rather than distinctions of character, can facilitate more effective cooperation between people.
Facilitate more effective cooperation, right? So cooperation means working together. Synonym are correct answer here. All right. So I hope you were able to do that. How did you find it? Was it difficult? Was it doable? What did you think about the monologue section? How did you score? And any confusion? Did you not understand any part of any question? Then please feel free to ask me right now. Boss, there is a form linked in the description. Please fill that out. You will get an expert guidance counselor to help you out with questions like these for free. All right? Yes, doable. Very good, Mitesh. We can all aim for full marks in the listening test as long as we are focused. There is no multitasking apart from obviously listening and answering questions at the same time. We're not going to think about anything else. We're just going to be laser focused on the audio. That's how we can ensure getting full marks in the listening test. It's quite doable, quite achievable, right? Band 9 in the listening test is very achievable. So please aim for that, nothing lower, okay? Keep all of these things that we are discussing in mind. In fact, make a checklist, all right? How can you do that? An effective checklist for reading, just like reminders for you. Literally write down listening, reminders. So then make a list. For example, jot down possible answers. Never stop paying attention. Even if you think that all the questions have been answered, and even if you think all the questions have been answered and I no longer have to pay attention, something is being said, it's just like a conclusion or a thank you or whatever, never stop paying attention. Okay? Don't stop paying attention. Third, you can beware of traps, and then one by one I want you to note down all the trap, synonym trap, meaning trap, backtrack, strong distractor. All the traps that we have discussed, go back to the trap video, figure out all the traps, write them down, and this is just your reminder for the listening part of the test. Keep all of this in mind and you will never make a mistake. And that brings me to the end of today's class. Thank you so much. Hope you found that useful. If you did, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to follow us on all of our socials so you don't miss out on updates. But seriously, subscribe so that I can keep coming up with more content for you, and do leave feedback for me in the comment as well. Just let me know what you'd like to see more on the channel, what you're struggling with, what you'd like more help with, what kind of sessions you find more useful. All of that feedback is really useful for me as well while designing the sessions. So please do that. And I will keep seeing you as always regularly. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy your day. It's important to relax, so make sure you do that. One day for you to just chill. And I will see you on Monday. What is your doubt, Adyan? Quickly, I am waiting for you. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I hope you were participating. See, a lot of you do it privately, but don't write your answers down in the chat. Don't do that. Okay? Don't be afraid of getting things wrong. See, I made a mistake yesterday. That's the first thing I spoke about today. It's okay. It's human to make mistakes as long as you're learning from it. Okay? Good evening. Hi. It's bye time, not high time. Adyan, I'm waiting for you. If you have something you need to ask me, please do that quickly. Rest of you can carry on with your day. Thank you so much, Sai Prasad. Ba-dum-bum. Very good, Ash. So, what you're doing, giving yourself feedback and pointers that you need to work on is so important. It's such a huge part of learning. And the fact that you do it, you're going to go very far. Trust me, I'm telling you. If you keep this up, nothing can stop you. Figure out where you're lacking, what you need to work on, pinpointing that, having that kind of self criticism is so necessary. So, what you're doing is great. Keep at it and work on whatever it is that you think is holding you back. See, we all have certain tendencies. I definitely get distracted during the listening test. And I know for a fact that I will get distracted. So I have to sort of give myself a talk before I sit for a listening test. That please don't think about these things. I don't do anything interesting before taking the listening test, which is something you also need to get into the habit of. I won't watch a video, I won't scroll, I won't think about something that interests me. Right? I'll just try to have a blank mind so that there's nothing that can interrupt my focus. Mitesh, this year probably depends on what your future plans are, but this year would be a good time to take the test because you will get a head start and you will also have that done and figured out. So that won't be one extra test that you have to take while you're taking so many different tests. This competitive exam, that competitive exam, this application process. There are multiple things that you will suddenly be bombarded with. So this is just one less thing to do at that time. Alright, so I feel like Adyan really doesn't have a doubt that he wanted to ask me. Maybe he just wanted me to stay for a bit longer, which I did. So now I will be going. If you have a question genuinely, leave it in the comments and I will address it in the next session. Alright? Okay, Adyan, see that depends from university to university. Obviously, high-ranking universities will want a higher score. Lower-ranking universities will settle for an okay score. Generally speaking, anywhere from 7 to 8 is acceptable, but some really good universities might not accept a band 7, okay? So you need to aim for the highest you can get because it's not just a requirement. It's not just that, okay, I've gotten the minimum required score that you wanted. It's also about making an impression, making your application stand out. So even though IELTS is a requirement, it's also something that sets you apart from other applicants. If your application and another person's application is exactly the same, but you have a higher band in IELTS, you will be considered, right? So it also makes a good impression. So aim for band 8, aim for 7.5 to 8, which is achievable, all right? Okay, bye-bye. See you all. Have a great Sunday.